So when we talk about it and we think about what we do as a business, we're in three sections. The first is creative brand storytelling. The second is digital distribution of those stories. And the third piece is measuring it. And that's really the fundamental basis for how you begin to build a relationship with your candidates, with your talent. Because you have to tell them the story of who you are and what you represent. Because you don't want more candidates, you want more of the right ones. When you start thinking about telling those stories, where do you put them? How do you atomize the brand experience and put it in front of them where they are? And then how do you measure the efficacy of the work that you're doing? So as we think about that, most organizations are focused here with the application. That's what they really want. How do we get people to apply to us? And what I'm suggesting to you is that the conversation we're about to have in the next half hour is actually not about that. It's about everything that happens before that. It's about how you drive awareness and consideration, how you get people to decide that you're an employer of choice for them. That's where the relationship is built and how it really starts. So as we do that kind of work and we think about it, this is my Twitter handle. Most people don't even understand what it means, @99gr81. I don't expect you to know what it means, but I'll explain why. This is Wayne Gretzky. He's arguably the greatest athlete in my world of hockey of all time. He's the greatest scorer, the most prolific one. And when he was asked why he was so good, his answer was very simple. He said, I go where the puck is going, not where the puck has been. So for him, it was about having vision. He had vision. And what I want you to think about is how do we take you where the talent is going, not where the talent has been. It's about innovation. It's about seeing things differently. So there are a couple of stunning lacks of vision. So television won't last. It's a flash in the pan. Oops, that was a mistake. Or how about this one? There's no reason at all anybody would want a computer in their home. No reason at all. Now we carry them in our pockets. Stunning lack of vision. Another stunning lack of vision, and you can say this with me, don't, right? Here we go. But another stunning lack of vision was a company called Blockbuster. Blockbuster was a $4.6 billion a year business, and they had no vision. So they didn't see the digital revolution coming. They didn't see new distribution pathways. They didn't see new ways to tell their story to their customers. So they went out of business. So vision's really important. So I'm going to give you a vision test. I'm going to ask you, are you looking the wrong way? And if you are, it's okay, because most organizations are. They have to think new ways about delivering that experience, reaching out and building those relationships with candidates. So here's the vision test. Now, I work for TMP Worldwide. We are the largest talent acquisition business in the world in terms of recruitment, marketing, and advertising. And I'm fortunate. I travel 150 days a year around the world, meeting with people like you, talking in sessions like this. And I've given this test to tens of thousands of people. Most people don't get it. So don't feel bad if you do or don't. Just raise your hand if you do. Here's the vision test. How do you remove 3 sticks to leave 4? Raise your hand if you get the answer. Somebody back there got it? In the interest of time, I'll share it with you. There's the answer. I hope that's the answer that you got. Roman numerals. It's about thinking about things differently and approaching things differently. So Einstein defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So as we start to think about how do we engage talent, build relationships with talent, find talent, seed out the wrong talent, bring in the right talent, we've got to change our approach to the marketplace. So we have 2 kinds of change. There's incremental change, which we call evolutionary. It takes place over time. And then, of course, we have, what we call disruptive change, which is revolutionary. It happens in an instant. And so all change is good. If change is in your business and you're not ready to accept it, you're probably in the wrong business. But when we think about change, remember this video when it came out? Anybody? 1983, Michael Jackson releases Thriller. It's an amazing thing. Here's what's interesting about Thriller. Thriller, when the video was released, the average video cost $50,000. Michael Jackson said to the producers and the director, here's $1 million. Change the way we do this. He had vision. And so what's interesting about that is I don't want you to think outside the box. I want you to think like there is no box. That's the way we start to change the paradigms in which we engage talent and the way we do work. There is no box. Think differently about all of it. So looking at that, this used to be a shared experience. We'd sit with our friends and our families. We'd watch television together. The new shared experience looks like this. We're all sitting around on our mobile devices, having conversations, but we're all next to each other. We used to sit together and we'd watch the news. Some respected person would come on and tell us what had happened that day. Now the news comes on our mobile device through Twitter. When Michael Jackson died, it almost broke the internet. So the world has changed. Mobile's really important, and a lot of speakers have talked about that. But the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones. Think about that. The Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones. We innovated. There were new things we could do, new engagement opportunities. So as we move forward in this whole thing, there are new modes of talent engagement. It's not about dragging people to a career site. It's about doing things that build relationships and micro interactions with them, understanding personalization opportunities and talking to people as if they're people, not just large groups of large groups. Talk to them as individuals. So it starts with an understanding of behavior. When we think about behavior, most organizations used to broadcast their message. They'd put it out into the marketplace, they'd hope that the right people saw it, and they hoped that you engaged with it. But has anybody ever watched a TV show called Mad Men? Seen it? Don Draper, there he is, right? Don Draper was this advertising genius. We think of him as a dinosaur, and there's a reason for that. Because he made what we call manufactured messaging. The audiences that he was making that for are too smart now. They know they're being sold something. Nobody's interested in being sold something. That's not how you build a relationship. A relationship is through content sharing and education and knowledge and listening. And so when you think about today's relationships, they don't come from manufactured messaging. It's personal. And it comes from your social graph. It comes from the people that you know and trust. Whether it's online or offline is irrelevant. It's about trust. When I came to Mumbai before I came to Delhi, I said to my colleague Pramod, hey, where should I stay? I said to Shweta, where should I eat dinner? Right? Because I knew them and I trusted them. Those are behaviors that we have as people. Those same behaviors are the ways that we engage with talent. So as we think about that moving forward, we've all used TripAdvisor or something like it. That's basically the same as Glassdoor, right? Isn't it? Asking people that we know, what's that place like? Where would you go? Where would you stay? So these devices are incredible. They're ubiquitous. They are the new supercomputer. And what's amazing about them is they're several hundred times, even thousands of times more powerful than all of the computers that we used to put man on the moon. But what do we do with them? We play games. We throw birds at pigs. We do. We're bored. We pull out our mobile device. We want information. We pull out our mobile device. So having that opportunity to engage that way is interesting because we live in what we call a solo-mo world. It's social, it's location-based, and it's mobile. And if you're a commuter, you're pulling out your device. You're reading information. You're capturing insight. We have the ability to literally put our message in the palm of our candidate's hands and begin an individualized relationship. We have to find ways in which to do that. So in that solo-mo experience, my dad used to tell me all the time, he said, you're antisocial. All you do is get on your device. You're reading your tablet. You're reading your phone. And I'd say, Dad, hold on. I'm not being antisocial. I'm just doing the same thing you used to do, but I'm just using a different media. So what's the message here? The message is technology changes, but people don't. Humans behave a certain way. And if you understand that behavior, you can start to build meaningful engagements and relationships with these individuals. And that's how you bring the right talent into the business. You start to get people to self-select out, people self-select in, and all of a sudden you've got meaningful opportunities for recruiters to talk. So I'm gonna ask you a question. How many times a day do you, Mohit, I'm gonna pick on you. How many times a day do you check your phone? Once every 10 minutes, okay. So that's a good answer. Here's the thing, there are 24 hours in a day. You're supposed to sleep 8 hours a day. Nobody really does, but we would be lucky if we did. So in those 16 hours that remain, if you checked your phone as often as the average person, that's 150 times a day. That's once every 6 minutes. So you're pretty close. We're reliant on these devices, and we have the ability to put our message in the palm of our candidate's hand. We have the ability to engage talent differently. So if it's once every 6 minutes, here's the question. Has anybody ever had the experience where they have their phone in their pocket or in their bag, and they think they felt the vibration, so they pull their mobile out, and it turns out nothing happened? Yeah, we've all had that experience. We get those phantom notifications. So the question is, why does that happen to us? And the answer is very simple. We're hoping for something. We really, really want something. And the thing that we want are notifications. And when we don't get them, we're unhappy. And when we do get them, we're very happy. And it's not just social media notifications. It could be a text. It could be an email. It could be anything. You've heard FOMO, fear of missing out, or nomophobia, no mobile phone phobia. Right? We want to stay connected. And so we start thinking about these notifications. It starts to get into this whole concept of brain chemistry, building meaningful relationships with talent. Because here's the thing. You get an endorphin rush every time that bell goes off, that beep, that tweet, that notification. And if we start using the idea of serotonin and oxytocin and the bonding hormone of oxytocin and dopamine hits and all that kind of stuff, we can start to really play upon people's behavior from a talent acquisition perspective. Let me give you an example. So as you go through it, the most important thing that we can do is have what we call micro-interactions. They're teeny, teeny, tiny. You can barely see them, but they happen all the time. Anybody post a photograph on Instagram and all of a sudden everybody goes click, 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 like, and we keep looking to see how many we got? It makes us feel good. Same thing happens when you do a Facebook post and you get likes and all that kind of stuff. So if you're a job seeker and you engage with a business and you go into the candidate black hole and you get no feedback loop, how do you feel? Not so good. But if you're a candidate And we're engaging with you all the way through the process. We're giving you a great candidate experience. And we're giving you little feedback loops, these little dopamine hits, right? Ooh, 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 that's great. I feel good. I'm going to be predisposed to like you as a business. And whether you hire me or not, I'm going to be a net promoter. They didn't hire me, but wow, what a great experience, what a great culture, what a great business. And if you hire me, it's even better because I come in predisposed to be an engaged employee because I've had a great experience, and that's what we all want, highly engaged employees. We're building a relationship. Now, my dad was 76 when he died. He was what I call a screenager. I live in London. My dad would fly from New York to London. He'd get off the airplane to come to my door, knock on the flat, and before he said, "I love you, son," he'd say, "Here's my iPad, here's my phone, put me on your Wi-Fi." Because he had to have his information. He had to have his emails. So we talk about generations, and that's fine. The generations do matter. But the term screenager is really important because screenagers are people. It's how we behave. We want access to insight and information all the time. Our candidates are screenagers. We have to give them access to the information that they want, how and when they want it. The other thing to remember is that we media snack. It's no longer about going home and at 6 or 7 o'clock turning on the television and finding out what's going on. We're all finding out what's happening every moment of every day. We get the information when and how we want it. In any moment, you could check the cricket scores, you could check the gossip from the movies, stock quotes, whatever's happening. That's the behavior of our candidates. We have to start matching our business behavior to our candidates. We have to atomize our brands and make sure that we don't bring people to us as a destination, but we use distribution opportunities to put our jobs in front of people where they live, where they consume content. It's a changed model, and we have to build relationships differently. There's so much information out there, though, it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose. It's nearly impossible to do. The average person sees about 1.5 million advertising messages a year. We don't pay attention to most of them. We've started to screen them out. You start to watch television, people have DVRs, and what they do is they end up skipping the ads. They do all sorts of interesting things. So as we look at that and we see the amount of information that's coming, the lack of knowledge and the time no longer being, time is solid, right? It's just the same number of hours. We have a problem in terms of how we process information and what we do with it. So if we think about this idea of why this all matters, it matters because we're on the edge of a precipice. Now, it's interesting because I've come to India several times now, and my understanding of the Indian market was very different. You have a lot of people. There's not a shortage of applicants, but it's a question of getting the right people. It's about talking to them. So you start looking at the talent precipice and the things that we're looking at. There's a skills mismatch. There's, across the globe, there's, declining birth rates. There's immigration policy changes. There's all sorts of stuff that affects the way we look at our workforce and the kinds of people that we have. And so as we start thinking about that, there are skills and jobs that we didn't think we had to recruit for 5 or 6, 8, 5, even 7 years ago. Right? Who knew, for example, that we needed an SEO strategist 7 years ago? Nobody thought that way. Now new jobs have come along, and the new jobs that have come along include things like Zumba instructor. I don't even know what Zumba is. Now we've got jobs like space tour guide because Virgin Galactic is taking people to space. These are jobs that didn't exist. They're skills that we didn't teach in universities. We didn't teach people how to do it. So in the business, we have to engage with talent not just as a talent attraction piece, but to upskill the people that we already have in the business. This is a real job description. Who knew that we needed a Snapchat producer? Right? But we do. And how do you start recruiting for somebody that you don't recognize, you don't know what the skill set really is? So as you think about that, and you go through some of it, PwC data, right, 63% of CEOs are concerned about the skills that we have in the business. 93% say they recognize the need to change strategies, but 61% haven't even started yet. So in business, we know there's a problem, but we're not moving to address it because we're thinking about the old ways. We're using the same tools and technologies. We're using the same approaches to the marketplace, and that's not good. It's time to disrupt it. And again, disruption is important, but it's not a technology, it's not a strategy, it's a way of thinking. So as we go through that, this is Rainer Strock. He did a survey. He's a BCG consultant in Germany, and he did a report and a study, and he basically talked about the talent shortage. And as I move quickly here, he said that if we did not want to increase GDP in Germany, we wanted to maintain historic levels of GDP. Going out to 2030, there was a shortfall of 8 million people in Germany. Now, I don't think you have that same problem in India, but again, there are talent shortages all over the place. You look at the largest economies, 15 of the largest world economies that represent 70% of GDP, 12 of them are projected to have a labor shortage, a skills mismatch. So now the competition for talent becomes much more important because as you bring people into the business, you're competing within your industry vertical, you're competing across countries, and what you're starting to see is that people have choices. What matters to them is culture. Yes, compensation is important, but people move because of culture. Culture trumps values. They want to know that they're going to like the people with whom they work. You need to start building out your EVP, build the proof points, look at it and say, how do we actually deliver that? That's that creative brand storytelling piece. People want to know about where they're going to work, with whom they're going to work, the kinds of things that they're going to do, the challenges of the projects that they're going to deliver. Again, when you look at the data, corporate culture is number 1, salary is number 8, according to Glassdoor. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of other surveys that would turn that on its head, but again, read them as you wish and take that with a grain of salt. But culture matters. So the message here is that the war for talent is over. The talent has won. They have a choice, right? It's a seller's market for them. Now, again, there are certain levels and stratas where the A players are going to be chosen by the companies. They're going to make decisions about which company they really aspire to work for as an employer of choice. But again, the talent's making choices. And what they're doing is they're saying, do I want to work for that company? And they're going to Zing and Glassdoor, they're going to Kununu in Germany, they're going to Facebook and LinkedIn. And what they're doing is they're checking you out. They're not telling you that they're checking you out, but they're deciding whether to even consider you. And you look at that consideration set, what you start to realize is that they've made a choice before they ever talk to you. And that's why building that relationship at the very outset is so important. Early awareness, building an EVP, getting people to engage and hear your stories. So it comes down to brand experience. As we look at brands and brand experience, if brands didn't matter, everything would be exactly the same. Right? There would be no change. We wouldn't care what we bought. But we buy things because of the brand. We buy a certain kind of car, a certain kind of watch, a certain kind of clothing. Brands matter to us as consumers. And you've heard a lot of people say it, and I'll continue to say it. Candidates are consumers. They expect the same kinds of things. The thing is, I've gone to companies around the world, and they've said, oh, we want to be like Apple. We want to be like Google. And I go, that's great. But you're not. You're who you are. Don't try to be something you're not. That's same but different. Be who you are. And people who understand that culture and that value will come to you. And that's who you want, the engaged employee. So how do you get somebody to immerse themselves in your culture and your company before they ever set foot in the door? It's all that stuff I showed you before that starts to the far left, not the application, but the awareness driving, the consideration, the engagement, all of that stuff. And it's about understanding behavior. Remember, we want more of the right people, not more people, because it takes too much time for us to process them. It's too resource intensive. And imagine, you bring the wrong person into the business, you've had the cost of recruiting them, you have the cost of onboarding them, you have the cost of getting them sorted up, and then the cost when they leave, and the damage it does to the teams and the culture and all those other things. So, people change jobs on average every 3 to 5 years. That's an average on a global basis. It may be different here. But we make purchases online an average of 18 times a year, many of us much more frequently. So if that's the case, what's the consumer expectation? Right? We think about that behavior, what we're used to, the consumer candidate, it's given rise to this idea that we have the same expectations as candidates that we have as consumers. So best practice for a career site now looks like Apple, or it looks like Amazon, or Flipkart, or Expedia. We have consumer expectations for sites. Now, I know when I go to most career sites, they don't offer that. They don't give me the same experience. They don't let me do the same things. So the question really is, can your jobs be found? If you're trying to build a relationship with somebody, we know what they want is the job. How do you let them find the job? So when you look at that, the first point of contact, what is it usually? It's usually a search engine, usually Google. And people will go, because it is the largest job board in the world, right? They'll go to Google, they'll type in a search string, right? Here it was project manager jobs in Delhi. And what I get usually are a bunch of ads, then I get a bunch of media in front of you, right? Not you, but the media that you've paid to have your job show up, right? And that's what people see. And if I click on a link, the experience is bad because I've gone to Google, I've told them what I'm looking for, it gives me some links, it takes me to another site where I have to retell it what I'm looking for, then it takes me maybe to your career site where I have to retell it what I'm looking for. Now, if you're buying something online, would that be a good experience? No. You've got to change the way you approach the relationship with your candidates. So again, we know based on all the work that we do that if you look at eye tracking and heat maps, the first thing that people want is jobs. It's the hottest spot. They want to know, do you have a job that I'm right for, that's right for me? Is it the right model of compensation? And then yes, once that's all ticked, they'll figure out culture and all the other things that are important to them, but they'll consider that. So if people are going right to jobs, and we know that they're coming from a search engine, they go there, what's a good experience? So this is Total. I'm just using them as an example. Here you go, Total. Show me, where are the jobs? There's a teeny tiny little place up there that says job seekers. Okay, so that's on the main part of the site, no problem. So I click on that. Here I go, look where it takes me. Where are the jobs? Right? I'm in the job seeker section. It says career development, human resources at Total, sharing our commitment. No jobs. So I delve deeper into it, and I finally get to this. Where are the jobs? Right? So the point here is you've got to give a better experience. You've got to give people what they want. You have to understand the candidate as consumer and make sure you're delivering that experience all the time. That's how you build a relationship. That's how you build intimacy and trust. You give them what they want when they want it. They start to realize that you're being transparent and authentic, and it's easy for them. Because if it's not easy, they're gone. 80% of page views on career sites are jobs. It's not the president's statement or about us or any of that stuff. It's jobs. That's what they go to. So if 80% of the views are jobs, and we know that the experience is really important, my question to you is why? Oh, sorry, I'll back up for a second. This is the ATOS career site that we've just created. We launched it in 4 weeks. It's very specifically designed. But the first thing on the homepage is search for a job. Use LinkedIn to connect your profile to find the jobs that are right for you. And when you go into it, there's your search results. This is just like going to buy travel. If you wanted to fly from Delhi to Mumbai, and you went to a site and you said, I want to go from Delhi to Mumbai, that's enough of a search parameter. It will then return to you every search result that matches that. And then with faceted search on the right, what you can do is say, I'm not interested in the flights that leave at 8 in the morning. I want the ones that leave at 10:30 at night. I want the flight that costs between this and this, right? And so with faceted search, you can then drill into it. I'm getting what I want as a job seeker, right to the job that I'm looking for. So when you think about it, why do we give people this? How do I build a relationship based on text? We don't read anymore, we scan. And what people want is contextually relevant information. That is not a good result for an IT job. It's not. The world has moved on. But 95% of companies are still delivering the old experience. If you want to win the war for talent, if you want to engage in that war or engage in the competition for it, change the way you recruit. Change the way you build relationships. Change the way you talk about your business, about your EVP, deliver your story. It's about giving a good candidate experience, not a bad one. Because when you give somebody that experience, they feel like this. Not happy. And you're in sales. You're not selling a product, you're selling a life decision. You're saying, come to me not for a job, come to me for a career. Come to me for a place where you can grow and have a career path and have opportunity. You don't want people to feel like this. So if we go back to consumer expectation, and we think about it, and I mentioned the faceted search, I want to go to Tokyo. There it is. So I look at the top, there's my search string. It filters my results. It gives me all the opportunities. Which airline do I want? What time of departure? And it tells me also how many people are looking at that same flight. How cool would it be if you started to tell candidates, look, we've got this job that's open, and here's how many people have looked at that job today. Right? Start to give them some insight into it. Those little dopamine hits, those little feedback loops. Hey, here's a point of information. We talk about big data and analytics and all that kind of stuff. How about giving candidates small data? Small data really helps. People want to find. They don't want to search. I want to find what I'm looking for. I don't have to spend a lot of time searching for it. So faceted search for jobs says I'm looking for a project manager job. I'm looking for a project manager job in Mumbai. I'm looking for a project manager job in Mumbai with whatever. And that facet gives you much more control as a candidate. Anybody here use Shazam? Shazam was pretty cool. You know, when it first came out, you know, you heard a song, you didn't know what it was, you whipped out your phone, and it told you, and you're like, that's cool. Here's the name of the song, here's who sings it, great. And then you went home and you bought it on iTunes or whatever you did, right? That was great. But the folks who made Shazam were really smart. And they recognized that Shazam could be so much more. So if you use Shazam now, what you get are contextually relevant results. The name of the artist, the song, the lyrics to the song, where you can buy it, where you can listen to it on Spotify, where the next concert is that that person is playing. That kind of information is the same kind of information that we need to give to job seekers. Where is the job? What are the transportation options? What's the nearest childcare if I need it? Where are the nearest banks and restaurants? How about giving people contextually relevant information about the jobs? But most organizations aren't doing that. So when you start looking at it, you have to always remember to deliver contextually relevant information to candidates all the time. That will set you apart. That's how you build an intimate relation. The other thing you have to do is you have to remember that we don't read, we scan. And we are a mobile business. It's not mobile first, it's mobile. And if you're not giving people thumb-stopping content where they can go, oh yeah, that's interesting, you've lost them. Because we read with our thumbs, right? That's how everybody uses their devices. So thumb-stopping content. The other thing to remember is that technology is so powerful, it gives us the opportunity to speak to an individual. One size doesn't fit all. We don't have to treat you as a broad group of people. It's not, you know, everybody who's looking for a job as a project manager. How about we can speak to female project managers from university. We can speak to male project managers between the ages of 25 and 30. We can speak to project managers in a particular geography. We can start to deliver content on the fly that is contextually relevant and fit for purpose. Here's an example of one of our clients, Nike. They've done a lot of work in that space. This is their career site. It's design careers. But what they've started to do at the bottom of the page with the job descriptions is start to give you internship information, innovation information, highly visual, right? People see and they process visual information 60,000 times faster than non-visual information. So let's make things visual and rich and engaging and give people video content and imagery and those kinds of things. The other thing you have to remember is context. This is the old context. Somebody was sitting at a computer very comfortably in a big chair, good line of sight, good internet connection, powerful, good electrical connection, good power, powerful internet, all that kind of stuff. The new context is this. We're reading with one thumb on our mobile while we're riding our bike. And we laugh about it, but it's true. That's how people are starting to engage. They're looking for a job on their mobile, they're processing on a tablet, and they're applying on their desktop or their laptop. That's the way the world has moved. And sometimes mobile apply still does work, and we can talk about that separately. So 35% of the traffic that we're seeing is coming from mobiles. We've got 2,000 clients around the world. We're starting to average it out. So again, market by market, it changes. But that's a pretty big number. And some organizations, like Glassdoor, are seeing it in the 60% range because people are looking for information on Glassdoor. So the numbers are big. So we came from this world that was all responsive, mobile first, blah, 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 blah. It's mobile. If it doesn't work on mobile, it doesn't work. That's my mantra. You can quote me on that. If it doesn't work on mobile, it doesn't work. Mobile's in the hand, it's in the moment, it's that solo-mo experience. You have it when you need it, it's there. So here's an example, again, of one of our clients. This happens to be Abbott. It's in situ, so you can see it works on a desktop, it works on an iPad, right? It works on a mobile device. How cool is this? It works on your iWatch. That's how you build a relationship with people. You give them the content in the format they want it in. You don't force them to conform to you, you meet them. So again, I'm not sure how many people would actually want to read the content on a watch. I don't want to read it on mine, but the point is it's available. So the other thing you need to have are useful metrics. So at the beginning I talked about, creative brand storytelling is the important part with the EVP to build a relationship. I talked about digital distribution of that, and that can be across your career site, social media, it can be everywhere. But you've got to measure it. If you're not measuring how people are finding you, what content's actually driving engagement, you're not doing your job properly. How do you decide what media really makes sense? How do you decide what content to repurpose and do more of? So metrics matter. And you start thinking about it, this is a quote from the VP of Analytics at Google. Sophisticated marketers who use analytics platforms are 3 times more likely to outperform their peers. So if you start, and we know big data is a big conversation here at the conference and it's everywhere else, but if you start really using data in a meaningful way, and meaningful information, not just numbers, but insights, you can get better access to talent faster. Our candidates are much more sophisticated. They understand things that weren't possible 2 or 3, 5 years ago. And so what we've seen is that the candidate journey is complex and nonlinear. We hear that teams are complex and nonlinear, learning is complex and nonlinear. But a candidate no longer just says, oh, job board application. We've seen up to 16 different sources of information used along the way to make those educated decisions about whether they want to work with you and for you. And so again, it's complex and nonlinear. 68% of applicants engage with multiple sources. So there's a philosophical shift that we have to talk about. And the philosophical shift is important. And it is all about your career site. It used to be that you would build a career site. You'd spend a bunch of money on it, whatever it was. And as soon as you launched it, it was dead because it didn't have any content updates. It didn't do anything for you. It was just a pretty destination. You'd have to then buy some media to drive people to it. Maybe they'd find what they wanted. It wasn't customized to them. It was a one-size-fits-all solution. You used the 80-20 rule, and that was it. And the philosophical shift now is away from destination to distribution. Your career site should do much more than just sit there. It should act as a 24/7 always-on recruiter. It should give you the ability to create custom pages on the fly for particular audiences. It should let you take those jobs and put them in those places where those audiences are. It should give you that ability to continue to build a relationship all the time. So it's a philosophical shift. And again, hundreds of companies have decided to do it, and I'll show you some examples in a minute. So I come back to what I showed you earlier, and I showed you just the top piece, which is don't focus on the apply, focus on all the stuff to the left, which builds that relationship. But you have to underpin it with a digital distribution platform, you have to put meaningful metrics with it, and that is best practice for candidate attraction and talent engagement today. Now it's hard to get to in some cases, there are easy ways to do it in others, but again, that's what good looks like. When you want to see what good looks like, I mentioned there's some companies that have done it. These, in disclosure, these are some of our clients, right? So Nestle Waters has done it. They've got a site that does all the things we've talked about, right? Boeing in 70 countries, they're using it, right? Amazon does it. AstraZeneca does it. Disney uses it. EMC uses it. Nike uses it. Thermo Fisher uses it. Converse uses it. Technicolor uses it. Epicor, I think that's the last one, and Abbott, right? So you get the idea. I've beaten a dead horse here, but lots of people are doing it. Now's the chance for you to go out there and change the way you begin to engage talent. Now you can do it yourself, you can find a third party, you can do whatever you want, but you've got to change your approach. Has anybody seen Facebook's Little Red Book? No, that's it right there. That's Facebook's little red book. And it's this legendary book that is all of the sort of philosophical mantras that Facebook puts out there. And one of the pages in there I find incredibly important and inspirational because, again, my job is to travel the world and make people change the way they approach things. And I think this is great. It says, if we don't create the thing that kills Facebook, somebody else will. They're always out there improving. They're thinking about new ways to do things. They're thinking about changing their culture and changing the ways they operate because somebody's always chasing them. In 1996, I was at Harvard Business School at a lecture that Jerry Yang was giving from Yahoo. And, given the news lately, it's really interesting now to look back on that, and it was 20 years ago. But when he was asked a question from the audience, they said, what is your lead on your competition? And his answer, 60 days. Well, obviously, Google ate them up, right? They're now gone. They were bought by Verizon. But, you have to think about what's coming, what's next, and how do you get there. So remarkable outcomes really result from modest risk. You've got to be willing to challenge yourself. You've got to get out there. And it's difficult. As an American, failure is part of our culture. We embrace failure. When I go to Germany and work with my German teams, the Germans don't want failure. Who's done it first will be fast followers. So again, I understand that it's difficult to do some of these things, but it's important to think differently. So I'm going to close with a couple of points. If this guy, Paul, hadn't been allowed to do what he wanted to do and innovate, we wouldn't have Gmail. How about this one? If Ken hadn't done what he wanted to do, we wouldn't have PlayStation. So big thinkers having big ideas. And this guy, what we wouldn't have if he hadn't done what he did. So it's about following your dreams, pursuing them, opening opportunities, and challenging convention. Challenge the status quo, think differently. So I want to come back to Angry Birds because I mentioned it before. I'm going to share with you something probably I shouldn't share, but I'm going to share it anyway. As an American, we're very proud of the fact that we think we can drink a lot. We go out and we have a party. So I've spent some time with the English, and wow, they can drink. And then the Irish, they can really drink. And the Germans, they can really, really drink. And then you meet the Australians, and it's game over. They really know how to drink. So anyway, I was privileged enough to be at a conference many years ago after Angry Birds had been launched, so not that long ago, in Hong Kong. And I was having a conversation with a guy named Pete Williams from Deloitte Digital, who is a real thought leader in the space and just thinks differently. And we had a few cocktails, and I was trying to keep pace with him, but clearly an amateur. And I was kind of like this, And he said to me, Steve, I want to talk to you about innovation. I said, great, let's talk about it. And he said, it's all about Angry Birds. And I said, I don't follow you. And I thought it might have been because I'd had too much to drink, but truly I just didn't follow him. He said, no, I'll explain it to you. He said, we live in a society where all we're really focused on is this idea of ready, aim, fire. We plan everything. We get ready for it, right? We vet everything with our leadership. We take it to management 3 more times. We check with lawyers. We check with everybody. Then we aim at our target, right? And we double check everything again, right? We want to make sure we're ready. Then we get ready to fire. We pull the trigger, and guess what? The target's moved. He said, Angry Birds is totally different. Angry Birds is aim, fire, adjust, right? If you've played the game, you know what it's like. You take your finger, you drag it across the screen, you let the bird go. If it hits the building, great. And if it doesn't, you adjust. That's rapid prototyping. That's innovation. That's agile development. That's how we need to think. We need to fail forward, and we need to fail fast. We need to try new things. We need to change the ways we engage with talent because you are competing today. You're competing for an amazingly precious resource, which is top talent. People are going to drive your business forward. They want to be dealt with as candidates and consumers. They have the same expectations that you have. Treat them the way you would want to be treated. Give them the tools and the technologies and the information that you would want. So I want you to fail forward. I want you to fail fast, but I don't want you to get hurt.